So a few months back, Legendary Drops made a video called Video Game Marketing is Out of Control. And I thought it was a really smart time to take a look at this.
We've seen some remarkable games in 2023.
To reflect.
There's this looming issue that's been off in the background, and you've likely have noticed it, and if you haven't, you will have by the end of this video. But with all of these breakout successes, these great hit titles that we've seen this year so far, we've also seen some of the biggest key players in the industry, some of the biggest titans of the industry stumble and fall. Which begs the question, why exactly is that happening? How exactly is that happening? If we're looking at a game like Diablo 4 as an example, a game with one of the most recognizable IPs in existence, how does that game fail to resonate with an audience? And even more so, how does it fall off so quickly?
You know what's interesting about Diablo 4? I think the main campaign of Diablo 4 is quite good. I think the problem was they just went in and they were mad because people were making really powerful characters early on.
What I'm here to do today is I'm here to argue that over-aggressive marketing, as well as sales and marketing's influence on game design, is what's causing a lot of these critical issues. Specifically, making games fail to resonate with audiences, and even more so, causing irreparable harm to a lot of these different companies and their reputations. We've seen a lot of videos over the past few years discussing how modern gaming is dead, but I believe the contrary. I think
also Death Battle. It's funny.
Looking at the last couple of years, gaming is very much alive and thriving, if not headed into a new golden age. I'd argue that what makes people feel like modern gaming is dying is
the rampant layoffs that we've been seeing. Remember, this video was made 2 months ago. This video was made 2 months ago before all the layoffs and everything happened. And yeah, there have been a lot of videos about why gaming is dying though. Just like I get recommended those a lot and I'm like, I've reacted to like 2 or 3 of these already. I don't just want all my content to be this, but this one's about marketing and why marketing's out of control. And that was made 2 months before all the drama happened.
That the biggest names, the biggest publishers, the biggest titles, the biggest studios are the ones that are failing to connect with an audience, and they're failing to appeal to their customer base.
Yeah.
Investing in and then being controlled by their own marketing rather than modernizing and culturing the creativity and the process that got those companies to where they are in the first place. The gaming industry spends over $5 billion a year on advertising in the US market alone.
$5 billion with a B. And if you think about it, Spider-Man 2 was $300 million. That's crazy. YouTube says Diablo 4 is going to have a crazy comeback when it comes to Game Pass. I think the first, I don't know, 20 hours you play of Diablo 4 are fantastic. It's not until you hit endgame where it gets problematic. So yeah, I think we'll see players spike, at least on console and PC.
Gamers, like many consumers, are force-fed advertisements in almost every space they inhabit. However, how effective...
Just real quick, I'm going to have to edit this out. Tartar sauce. Let's not beat up on tartar sauce. Tartar sauce, I appreciate the distinction. I just didn't think it was necessary to give me such a hard time about it. You're right. It is an important distinction. And I appreciate you reminding me about it. But, yeah. Anyway. Thank you for the point. I was just a little surprised that you were like mad. Anyway.
Are those marketing campaigns, and is their cost justified? And by cost, I'm not talking just about money. While that is part of it, I'm also talking about the cost to their reputation and the impact of our impression on that studio and on that game that they're trying to release. The industry is plagued by poor planning, overspending, and ineffectiveness with regards to marketing.
Yeah. I think the marketing is very strange. Like the same marketing strategies that used to work don't really work right now. And yeah.
And what's worst of all is that most of those in sales and marketing are also influencing the direction of how games are made and how they're monetized, which is compounding this issue further and making games that either don't attract or retain audiences and only serve to fatigue the fan bases that put them in business in the first place. In a recent article from PC Gamer, players complained about an Assassin's Creed Mirage advertisement in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh my God, yeah. They put ads in their games.
And allegedly in other games as well. The advertisement in question showed the Black Friday offer for Assassin's Creed Mirage. The PC Gamer art.
I gotta be honest. If this happened more than once, if this happened in one of my games more than once, I would uninstall it. Get out of my game. It was a bug. It was later revealed that it was a bug. But like, let's say that happened again. I'd be like, no, I'm freaking done. I already bought your game. Why are you advertising to me to buy your other games in your game? Get out of here. It's like terrible.
Article also cites that this isn't the first time that this has happened, that in 2019, Kotaku reported that an advertisement for DLC kept popping up in the in-game menu as well. The Assassin's Creed official Twitter responded saying, unfortunately, this technical error caused a promotion to appear in one of our in-game menus instead.
Yeah, bug.
We want to
It's
ensure
a bug.
the best player experience possible, and these disruptive pop-ups were promptly removed once we learned of the issue. Now, what I find is...
You know, it'd be like when you're playing a raid in Destiny and sometimes you get a pop-up that's like, hey, you left your last match early. This will affect your rep. It's like, get out of here right now. I'm about to fight the boss. Why are you giving me this? Imagine like that happened. Like it's nuts that they would even try that.
Especially interesting is that the top comment for this is, in other words, we took your feedback. Our data shows that players will not tolerate this. We will not push this on you at this point in time.
Right? I'm a little suspect. I'm a little suspicious about this.
Now, this very well could have been a bug. However, the player's reaction, as well as my own, is immediately that of skepticism.
Yep.
And why is that? Well, that's
because we don't trust these companies. Quadruple A pirate game. We're on to you.
what I was talking about earlier when I said cost to reputation. See, the more overly aggressive you are with your marketing, the more overly aggressive you are with your monetization, and the lower the quality of your games become, the less likely we are to trust you, even when something may or may not be your fault at all. This very well could have been a bug, and as such, they didn't do anything wrong, but why would we believe them?
Colt brings up a funny story. Crossplay was a bug at one point. Remember when crossplay was a bug for Rocket League and Fortnite? And then we found out during the Epic versus Apple case that, oh, it turns out PlayStation's basically charging a crossplay tax where if you sell X amount of copies of your game on another platform, they would charge you more. Like, it was so bizarre how that was handled. I believe I would have to look at the case, but it's like if you sold a certain amount on another platform, you would have to pay PlayStation more. It was so stupid. I think they got rid of that, but it was revealed during the Epic versus Apple case. It was absolute nonsense.
And we only recently just saw similar backlash with Xbox, where players were greeted by a Modern Warfare 3 ad that took up the entire screen and that you had to engage with to even play games on your Xbox to begin with.
Yeah, and they're still doing that. I forgot about this. This video's 2 months old. This hasn't stopped. They do it when you boot up your Xbox. You're greeted with an ad. I do not like it.
Well, I don't think it's necessary for me to fully rehash this. It has similar user reactions to the Assassin's Creed ad. However, the one thing I do want to bring up is a specific section from this article from The Verge that was covering it. In response to the full screen pop-ups and the history of them showing up on Xbox, The Verge writes, "But what I found particularly irritating about the Starfield, Forza, and now Call of Duty ones is that these pop-ups appear even if I had the game pre-ordered or pre-installed on my console. They even appeared for people regardless if they could care less about shooters or racing games. They were irrelevant, and I hate irrelevant ads. I feel like they're just pestering me for no reason."
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And like, what is going on with the marketing? Yeah, it's crazy. Let's stop posting about Sweet Baby. Like, what is with y'all's? Oh my goodness.
Over the years, I've been scratching my head wondering what's going on with all of this aimless marketing. And what I mean by that is that you have studios that are out there that are marketing wherever, whenever, however, to whoever they can, as much as they possibly can. And while some people are going to see that as a good thing because that's called brand visibility, the problem is that if you just stop there, that's where things just don't seem to take off, because the point of marketing, the point of advertising is specifically to be useful and have a functionality for the end user being you or me, who are the ones that would go from that advertisement to making the purchase of the game.
Well, I would argue, like, if you're marketing towards people who already have pre-orders or already have it installed, somebody in chat pointed out that might be kind of a good thing, because it means they're not using your data to target you in terms of marketing anyway. It's still bad. Like, overall, it's a bad practice. And I don't like the idea of that popping up before I can start my Xbox. It's very annoying. But at least they're not harvesting our data.
However, if you are blindly advertising to us, we become blind to your advertisements. What I mean by that is, we'll use an example like Raid Shadow Legends, a game that a lot of people have a lot of familiarity with because we've seen the advertisements so often, but how many people have actually gone and engaged with that game? How often did you become interested in actually playing the game after seeing the advertisements for the game for the 100th, 1,000th, 10,000th time?
We actually watched a whole other video about that. They say, like, you can be hit 9 times, or yeah, I think it was 9, but by 12 you hate it. You hate that thing. So if you see 9 posts about something, you're still in the good territory. By 12 you hate it.
After a while, you become fatigued from seeing those advertisements. And that's what happens as a result when you're advertising to people that are not interested in your product. It's as simple as that. What I think is going on is, I think there's a general level of incompetence in some of these marketing decisions that a lot of these companies are making. I'm not saying necessarily that people don't know what they're doing, but I just think that they don't necessarily understand their core audience and how to approach them. See, in marketing, there's a core principle. A marketing mix is what it's called. But part of that is knowing the needs of your customers and then making suggestions based on those needs. But a lot of these companies are completely ignoring that. I'm going to use Diablo 4 as a case study for the remainder of this video, as it best exemplifies my point.
The problem with Diablo 4 is not the marketing. I would argue it's not even about the gameplay. It's because everybody was enjoying their time with the game. They got to endgame. There's not a ton of depth there. There's not a ton of challenge. It was fairly light. Then the new season came out, and the first thing that they did was they nerfed your character into the freaking ground. And it just made everybody feel like they just wasted their time playing this game. And then when they saw that there wasn't a ton of nuance or depth in the end game, they felt doubly betrayed. So there's that.
Diablo 4, one of the best and most recent examples for overblown and extravagant marketing campaigns, surpassed its internal sales records by making over $666 million a week after its initial release, with some now estimating that the game has sold over 10 million copies, making $1 billion in sales. While obviously there was some effective marketing, I'm questioning the need and the purpose for theming a French church with commissioned Diablo paintings, a Halsey and Suga song.
Okay, he makes a very good point here. They did not need to spend this amount of money to market the game. The amount that they spent on all of this stuff was completely unnecessary.
Licensing a Billie Eilish song, other celebrity endorsements, and more. This is Diablo. How much visibility is needed for one of the most iconic IPs in all of gaming? There were vegan meat shakes, dinners where gaming media outlets and creators were invited to Diablo-themed venues for Diablo-themed food so they could promote the game to, well, I'm not so sure, and that's the problem.
Who does that benefit? Like, hey, it's me, influencer, who's been super excited about Diablo 4 that we all pre-ordered already. And now I'm at a Diablo 4 themed thing talking about Diablo 4. Like, at some point you hit that level where you've been marketed to too much and you start to just hate the thing.
If we were to compare Diablo 4's recently estimated 10 million copies sold to Larian Studios' Baldur's Gate 3 with an estimated 7 to 8 million copies sold, those numbers likely to break over 10 million after the release on Xbox, its physical edition, the holidays.
I will say, I don't think Baldur's Gate 3 can be utilized as a test case for any sort of barometer in an argument like this. And I say that because it was not the norm. Like if you were placing a bet, would you have bet on Baldur's Gate 3 or Diablo 4? Pre-launch, pre-hype, pre-everything. Which one do you think would have had the higher chance of success? I mean, I probably would have said Diablo 4. I don't think even Larian expected the amount of success that they got for Baldur's Gate 3. Am I happy it happened? Oh, I am absolutely happy it happened. I am so happy it happened. I would have put money on Diablo 4 though. Anyway.
Season approaching and their undoubted win of the Game of the Year award, one game has garnered massive success for not only the company but the industry, and the other, which is a live service, can barely keep their name out of the gutter for a month. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but the point that I'm trying to make is that Baldur's Gate 3 didn't have this massive marketing campaign that Diablo 4 did, and they garnered similar success, if not more, by the end of the holiday season. And if that's the case, it was just making the better game that ended up leading to all those sales. They didn't have to go through the effort and the trouble of doing these large collabs with major artists or refashioning a church or any of the other extravagant things that they did. In fact, Baldur's Gate 3 was relatively organic with a lot of its marketing. Most of it was done by people like me making videos about how great the game was.
Or the bear. It was him and the bear that made Baldur's Gate 3 pop off. No, it was like grassroots for sure. Baldur's Gate 3 went nuts.
Or they went out and commissioned work from other content creators where they wanted to make animated shorts, or they wanted to have different artists make music or something like that to promote the game. That is something that the audience actually enjoys. That's something that the audience enjoys engaging with. And as such, it's more likely to, well, attract more customers and get more people to that point of sale. I would guarantee that there are people that are watching this video right now that saw Baldur's Gate from some other sort of means. Maybe it's a content creator that's one of their favorite that was talking about the game, and as a result, they went and made that purchase. I find it highly unlikely.
When did you buy Baldur's Gate 3? Maybe Chad has an interesting story. Did anybody just buy it before all the hype?
That people watched the Suga and Halsey song and said, oh, I need to go buy this game right now.
I agree with that. Yeah, I didn't watch the Suga song and it didn't make me buy Diablo 4. That's true.
While yes, Diablo 4 did initially sell well, both the game and the studio are not held in the highest respect right now. Their core audience and those who would be engaging in microtransactions aren't the ones that were captured by that marketing campaign. While journalists and other content creators initially shrugged off the concerns of the players when they saw the use of the Billie Eilish song for the Diablo 4 trailer, or were confused by the Halsey collab, what they failed to see was that this was a mining canary, warning people of things to come. Blizzard and Diablo 4 did...
I think the marketing was really bad for Diablo 4, but I don't think the game's... I think the game has problems, right? I don't think it's the worst game I've ever played in my life. Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't understand who their core audience was, or if they did, they were trying to appeal to somebody else that wasn't interested in playing Diablo 4, something that we see mirrored in the game's design. Diablo should have been a game that understood its core audience, men in their late 20s to their 40s. They should have listened and learned from the innovations of the studios that have continued on the genre that Diablo 4 is in, like Path of Exile, Grim Dawn, Lost Ark, Last Epoch, and more. But they didn't.
Somebody asked if I played Last Epoch. Yes, I did. It is so fun. I did the Hammer Swirl build. I'm only like, I want to say 20 something, maybe 30, but I've had a lot of fun with it. And you got Path of Exile 2. There's a lot of competition coming for Diablo 4.
Why? It's because they didn't know who they were trying to make the game for. I would guarantee that the microtransaction strategy, which is the core to how Blizzard planned on monetizing Diablo 4 in the future, is not panning out how they thought it would, because The game lost players at a record rate, to the point where many players today are apathetic to whether or not the game improves. Sure, we would like it to be a good game, but I mean, Path of Exile 2 is well on its way and right around the corner.
If Diablo 4 gets better, you know who I'm not going to care about saying it got better? Billie Eilish. If Diablo 4 gets good, I'm not going to care what Billie Eilish thinks in a musical that she puts together with the Blizzard team. Like, is she going to write a song about Diablo 4 is good again? Y'all need to, I don't even know what songs Billie Eilish does, but yeah.
From my perspective, more effort and more investment went into marketing Diablo 4 rather than trying to develop it for the right audience. The development cost for one of the most expensive AAA games in history is Cyberpunk 2077, which reached a massive $174 million in addition to $142 million for a marketing budget.
How is that real? $142 million on marketing and your dev budget was only $174 million? Why was that necessary? That's insane. I didn't know that.
Blizzard likely exceeded this. Does this video game, Diablo 4, justify the cost of marketing to the tune of potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, or the development costs of employing over 9,000 developers over the course of the game's development?
If your marketing budget is the same as your development budget, you screwed up, I think. That's nuts.
Unlikely. But this is likely the reason why Blizzard is asking us if we're okay with them charging $70 to $100 for a Diablo 4 expansion. Why they're dancing with the idea of selling unique items, stash tabs, and legendary powers, because they likely need to extract as much money as they can for the expenses that they've accrued from all of the mistakes that they've made. The numbers on the graph didn't spike high enough, fast enough, and stay there long enough. Now, at the beginning of this video, I foreshadowed something that happens as the result of poor marketing. And it's not just the game failing. What it is that these companies don't realize it's necessarily their fault. They just don't understand why we're not the ones engaging with their marketing. We're not buying the battle pass for some reason. We're not buying the cosmetics. What's going on? Well, because they accrue all these costs, not only from development, but also from their marketing, what ends up happening as a result is they go, well, we're just going to force them to engage with the microtransactions by making it integral to the game's design.
$65 horse. Or they make it so that you have to play so much that you would rather spend $8 to get a thing, you know?
I.e., like Blizzard dancing with the idea of selling legendary powers, or including stash tabs with a pre-ordered version or an expanded version of the expansion. Now, the problem with that is that they don't realize that that is a self-fulfilling prophecy of such, where they are actually actively hurting the user's experience, thus making the game less likely to be popular. If you make me buy things that I don't...
I'm not a marketing expert, but I can't get over the Billie Eilish thing now that I know about it. I think Asmongold talking about your game and playing your game would sell you infinitely more copies than Billie Eilish singing a song about it. I would love to hear from a marketing person as to why you would ever want Billie Eilish to sing about a video game. How does that work? Like, what does that do? I don't get it.
Don't want to buy, I don't want to play your game. There's this famous clip that a lot of people use of Steve Jobs talking about how sales and marketing starts to direct the people in charge of making products.
So the people that can make the company more successful are sales and marketing people, and they end up running the companies.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, but like that's what's happening. Like Suicide Squad, kill the Justice League. That has to be an executive game making decision, right? I got to hear this full quote because he's absolutely spot on.
Successful are
The people in charge of making products.
So the people that can make the company more successful are sales and marketing people. And they end up running the companies. And the product people get driven out of the decision-making forums. And the companies forget what it means to make great products. It sort of the product sensibility and the product genius that brought them to that monopolistic position gets rotted out.
He's freaking right. That's exactly what is going on. That's exactly what's going on. The creative people get rotted out. You saw it happen with Suicide Squad. The founders of that company left. They were gone. The creatives just like, they either stay and just do whatever to collect a paycheck or they bounce. Right? Yeah, God. That's really depressing to hear Steve Jobs talk about that because he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Gaming has become too much business, not enough game creation.
By people running these companies who have no conception of a good product versus a bad product. They have no conception of the craftsmanship that's required to take a good idea and turn it into a good product. And they really have no feeling in their hearts, usually, about wanting to really help the customers.
Over the years, it's become increasingly apparent that sales and marketing exert excessive influence over the direction of many major game studios. This dominance does not come without consequence, as it adversely affects the quality of the AAA games that we receive. Players are finding themselves bombarded with marketing content, be it upcoming games, downloadable content, expansions, microtransactions, or battle passes. This oversaturation of all of this content extends to the games themselves, where studios are incessantly pushing for more player engagement and more monetary investment. This relentless advertising blitz then leads to a phenomena where us, the players, are overwhelmed by this constant barrage. Well, we become desensitized to the marketing efforts. We start ignoring the DLC, the microtransactions, or at best, we start talking about them negatively. However, this desensitization prompts an even more concerning trend, the injection of monetization strategies directly into the gameplay experience. For example, a game like Activision's Warzone, where the most powerful weapons are always the newest additions, and the best way for you to unlock them is to own the other game.
Is that true? Is that like a thing? I don't play enough Call of Duty to know the answer.
This approach to marketing and monetization is not only ineffective, but it's also detrimental. It not only erodes the quality of the game design, but it also impairs the overall player experience. The resulting impact is a gradual degradation of the brand integrity itself and losing the trust of the gaming community. As studios prioritize revenue generation over the satisfaction of their players and the gaming experience, they risk alienating their audience and undermining the long-term viability of a lot of these different projects that they start.
I think the marketing is ridiculous, the stuff that he talked about with Diablo 4, but I think the decision to nerf those initial builds during season 1 into the ground and create a not great gameplay loop in endgame, I don't know that you can put that on the marketing team. I think those are just poor decisions, right? Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. I think like maybe you can put making it a games as a service on the marketing team, but making the campaign full of escort missions and all of the bosses bullet sponges that just died of bullets, like that's just not really an interesting loop. So I don't really know what to think about that.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't a gamers rise up moment or anything like that. Honestly, this is just a critical analysis of the failures of the industry as it stands right now. From where I'm standing, if you're anything like me, you're exhausted. You're tired of this. Every time
This was 2 months ago.
you turn on your computer or your Xbox or your PlayStation or probably even your Nintendo, you're immediately hit with stuff that you just don't want to see. And the more that you see it, the less you want to engage with it. And that's going to be very true for a lot of these games going forward, because if they continue down this path, well, their games are just going to get worse as a result. And then we're just going to go somewhere else to buy our games, which is something that we saw quite a lot of this year where...
Yeah, and he's going to get to the point, but you know what's been really fascinating? Again, the reason I wanted to watch this is because we can reflect on the points that he made and think about current context. Pal World, Helldivers 2, Last Epoch, those are 3 games made with a fraction of the support that these AAA games have, and they just knocked it out of the frickin' park. So it's clear that gamers are hungry for certain types of products that seem to respect their time and just feel good to play versus the AAA marketing and all this sort of, I don't know what it is. It just, AAA games just haven't consistently been hitting the way that they used to. Granted, I say that as we're playing Final Fantasy and everybody's lauding over it, but there is something to say for the amount of smaller games that have been tremendous successes. Just something to sort of think about.
Some of the more popular games were not made by AAA studios. There were a few that did very well. Obviously, Diablo 4 still did very well initially in its sales, but I guarantee over the next year or 2 years, it's not going to meet the numbers that they had planned for that game to meet. And
yeah, I can guarantee you, because now we know that they're firing people at on the team that made Spider-Man 2, which only had a 50% profit increase versus 112%. So not good enough. Sorry, you got to go. Like it's bullshit. Sorry. I don't like to swear.
More often that happens, the less likely that those games are to be supported, the less likely those games are to come out, and then eventually, well, the less relevant those companies become in the future. I don't think the industry really understands how much they could benefit from simply adopting more organic marketing strategies that are far less intrusive and more player-centric.
Here's the scary thing. I think we're in danger of seeing the entire AAA space dissipate or crumble. Why? Because they just seem to have lost the frickin' plot. And I think what might happen is we see all of these indie studios become the next AAAs. And hopefully more of them are like Larian. I think Larian has a chance to be the next, I don't know, I'd say CD Projekt Red, right? CD Projekt Red, say what you will about that Cyberpunk launch, which very bad release on previous gen console. They have done very well for themselves, and they do care about their customers very much. I don't know what happened with the previous gen in that one, but like, okay, I'll give you that one, because you know what they did? They came out with Phantom Liberty, and it was phenomenal. So I am curious what's going to happen here, because if AAA keeps going down the path that they're on, it's not going to be good for that aspect of the industry. And I do think we could be at a reset point for all of it.
Larian Studios' approach with Baldur's Gate 3, which
Regna 85 says, you learn more from failure than you do success. Absolutely agree.
Involved transparent developer updates, early access feedback loops, and a fostering of a strong community around the game, exemplifies how organic growth and player engagement is really what drives a game's success.
Somebody said in a video that I reacted to that this looks bad. And I was like, no. Baldur's Gate looks awesome.
Making great games sell themselves. This approach not only cultivated a dedicated fan base for the game, but has also maintained positive excitement around the game post-launch, still sitting at over 100,000 players, concurrent players on Steam.
Yeah, see, a lot of people are like, oh, the AAA gaming space is dying. I don't think that's what's happening. I think we are seeing a reset of priorities across the board. And I think potentially that could result in better games for the future. That's my hope. I think there's going to be a lot fewer dumb bets made, like taking a single player studio and make them do a games as a service. I just don't get why Warner Brothers would do that. They just had Harry Potter, a phenomenal success, come out. And then the other studio did, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I've talked about Baldur's Gate 3 extensively on this channel, but recently in an interview with A16Z, Larian's director of publishing, Michael Dowse, said that they knew who their audience was.
That guy's based. He always has the, like, really good takes.
And the game was largely supported by the research that they did into what those players wanted and what they enjoyed. And I believe that is the major disconnect that we're seeing from a lot of these major studios. They've lost track of who their audience is and what their audience wants. They're too busy trying to capture an audience that they don't already have. I think more times than not, a lot of the...
I agree with that. I think it's they have shareholders to appease, so they have to say that they're doing the cool new thing, like, oh, we're utilizing AI in all of our games, and yeah, we figured out how to get BitChain or blockchain or whatever the hell in our property, and we're going to be utilizing that in all of our properties. And oh yeah, you know, we did XYZ thing that everybody's saying that we have to do so that the shareholders are happy. And yeah, we have 50% microtransactions, and yeah, we've increased those to $15 a micro, like all the stuff that they want to hear, and they just put it in their game. And you think Larian's doing any of that? Nope.
These studios are trying to strong arm their way through their marketing. And
Larian reminded us what a good AAA game could be, right? And I hope, I just feel like Baldur's Gate was so freaking important for the industry, because I feel like all those AAA studios are going to be like reminded, we could have just did that. We don't have to trend chase. We don't need blockchain in our games. We don't need to do all this stuff that we're doing. Let's just make great games again. I hope it ruffles feathers. I hope everybody gets a little, I don't know, nervous about it. I wouldn't say they're panicking or anything, but I hope it reignites that passion and that desire. And it kind of like tones down a lot of the unnecessary stuff that marketing is telling them that they need to have to appease the shareholders, right? That's my hope. Yeah.
And it's mostly because they don't understand who their core audience is, because that's not who they're trying to aim to get. They're trying to go for a broader audience. And that's pretty obvious with a lot of the game design that we've seen from a lot of these AAA companies over the last few years. The problem with that is that if you're not appeasing the core audience, then the game's just not going to be successful. Those are the people that keep the game up. Those are the people that are your concurrent players, the ones that are going to be buying microtransactions. Those are also the most vocal members of your community as well. Those are the people that are going to be in the YouTube comment section, on Reddit, on Twitter, on your message boards, wherever else they can go. They're going to tell people not to buy your game if they're not enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we've seen with Diablo 4. I think one of the problems is...
I will say that I think oftentimes the discourse online, it's totally off base though. Like I see so often, why can't my Xbox Series X do native 4K at 60 frames per second? And it's like, that's what I want in game dev. Like I think you need to kind of cut through the stuff where they don't understand the limitations and focus on what's really important. Because if your game runs at 1080p and it's 60 frames per second, but it's the best freaking game you've ever played, no one cares if it's native 4K. Or the people who do, like, okay, yeah, maybe we'll get there. Something like the people who do are like 0.05% of the market, right? Gameplay is king. Always.
Is that not only are they trying to capture the wrong audience, but also on top of that, they're just not realizing that they could spend far less money if they just made a better game as a result. Or if they made a lot of their marketing content just a better enjoyable experience for the customer.
Well, now that I know it, I actually want Billie Eilish to do all video game marketing. So maybe Billie Eilish, if she would have sang about Baldur's Gate though, imagine how big Baldur's Gate would have been. Like if Billie Eilish would have sang about Baldur's Gate, there we go.
A really good example of this is Baldur's Gate 3. I realize I talk about the game quite a lot on this channel, probably will for a long time, but it's really impressive what they did. As an awesome example of this, they went and took their voice actors and had them go do a one-shot campaign over on High Roller's YouTube channel for D&D. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was super entertaining. It was funny. It was memorable. And then what Larian did after is they ended up releasing a patch just a couple days ago, patch 5, which introduced epilogues into Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
They took the events that happened in that High Rollers campaign, in one of their advertising campaigns, and inserted it into the game.
That's smart.
Enhancing the overall player's experience.
I like that.
Not only just making it where we had a good time watching them play D&D, but now because we engaged with their marketing, it actually enhanced our gaming experience.
And they added smooches recently. Just saying, more smooches for your love interest.
That's so cool. That's so innovative. And more companies need to do things like that. But I feel like a lot of these folks just don't want to think outside the box. Instead, they just want to try to force feed it. And at the end of the day, the more you do that, the more you're going to degrade the quality of your games. The more you're going to degrade the quality or the respect that your company could potentially demand if they just did better. That's
Yeah, you know, but what would have really saved Diablo is if they went on Jimmy Fallon. They could have had a really famous person just say Diablo 4 in their commercial and have Billie Eilish sing about it. But they didn't have Jimmy Fallon. So, you know, they didn't have the full trifecta of planning in place. And that's really what went wrong with Diablo 4's marketing team. Got to get that Jimmy Fallon guest appearance.
That's it. Just do better. And this is the result. You're seeing it with a lot of these companies, especially the big three. If you're looking at Ubisoft, EA, is it Ubisoft or Ubisoft? Whatever. Ubisoft for today. Ubisoft.
It's Ubisoft, and I hear it mispronounced all the time. It's from the word ubiquitous, and one of the main people who worked at Ubisoft years ago has a whole video about how to pronounce it, and everybody says it differently. Now, for some reason, I'm wrong, but I have always said Ubisoft because it's from the word ubiquitous, because I watched that video. Anyway.
Soft, EA, or Activision Blizzard. Their reputations are in the mud. So anytime they do something, whether it's a mistake or on purpose, we immediately assume that it's nefarious. We assume that anything that they do, anything that they're planning is going to have some type of hidden intention.
Trust's been eroded.
And I hate to say it, but more
trust has been eroded. And even when I'm tweeting, trust is eroded to the point where I can tweet about, what did I tweet about? I tweeted about a Digital Foundry video that I liked, and they're like, "You call yourself a journalist? You piece of garbage. You're an idiot." And I'm just I just thought it was interesting. You're clearly doing this to farm clicks. You even admit it with your joke post about making $4 this month off of your X ad income revenue. And I'm just like, y'all, people are just, and you know what? I see that a lot. I challenge everybody to stop, look at their own preconceived notions and think about them, because even in chat today, I saw a lot of people doing that. And it's is that really the end all be all for why a game ended up being bad? I don't know.
Times than not, that ends up being the truth, but it doesn't have to be that way. I've said this 100 times. The most dangerous, the most despicable, the most evil game you could ever imagine is the most enjoyable game that also has monetization that you want to buy. Not because you feel like you need to, no, because you want to support the game.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at Baldur's Gate 3 and its community, the amount of people that are crying and begging and saying, please give me things to buy is ridiculous.
Yeah.
People want DLC. They want outfits. They want expansions. They want whatever Larian could possibly give them. And that's what you want to aim to do. Make a great product that connects with an audience and then stuff them with microtransactions afterwards because they want to support your game. I would be an evil game developer.
Used to be able to build a game with 50 people max, low salaries, less license costs, and sell 1 million copies and be fine. You can build a game with one person. Tunic was built by, I think the total head count was 3 people. Yeah, you don't need 50 people. House for QL Gaming. And I've heard that a few times recently where people are thinking you still need massive development teams. No, if you got a good idea, you need one person, you, and a little bit of gumption. I don't know the right word. BattleBit, 3 people. Helldivers 2 was 100 people. So you can do a lot with a little. And there's a lot of YouTube stories out there about games made by very small teams.
Developer. hey, studios, I got a marketing degree. Give me a call. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is a little bit interesting, a little different. I like doing these essays and doing these kinds of discussions. If you guys did enjoy this video, drop a comment down below, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future. I'll probably do a news video sometime this week as well. I'm trying to do this solid balance between video essays and news. Hopefully you guys like that. If not,
it's kind of my thing.
Too bad. You're getting it anyway. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe, my friends, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
I think y'all already know legendary drops, but I think that was a really good video. I'm way over time for what I agreed to with my wife, but I don't hear her and the kids, so I'm assuming she went out to the park or something. Thank you for watching. You know what? I think I hear her coming back right now. I think that's a great video. Go subscribe to Legendary Drops if you can't. I don't know why he only has 51,000 subs. Why do I have more subs than Legendary Drops? That's weird. Thanks for watching, everybody. I got to check on the wife. You know who else I need to thank? The members. Members. I very much appreciate you for supporting the channel. As you know, right now, everything's not doing great. So I really appreciate you so much. I keep doing the Sunday streams. I actually have one of the interviews I kind of screwed up on, but I'm doing that this evening. So you should have an interview soon. Hit that join button if you want to become a member. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now. I really appreciate y'all. Thanks for hanging out.